Somewhere in a shared drive right now, there's a video file with a timestamp that doesn't match its metadata, 32 seconds long, showing something pale and folded hovering motionless above open ocean, and then, at exactly the moment it should have gotten clearer, the recording simply stops. Not fades, not glitches, stops cleanly, the way a camera stops when someone decides it should. You're about to spend a day inside the head of the one person who noticed that the cut itself was the story, not the object in front of it. Stay with this. The ending isn't what you think it is. Your phone buzzes at 4:52 a.m. with a message from a source you've used exactly twice before. Both times reliable, both times careful never to send you anything they hadn't already checked twice themselves. You work verification for a small aviation and maritime incident channel. The unglamorous end of this industry, the part where you spend more hours confirming a video is real than anyone spends actually watching it once you're done. The message has no text, just a file, 32 seconds, and a single line underneath it. Found this in a private forum. Nobody's traced it yet. You sit up in the dark, plug in earbuds so you don't wake anyone, and press play before you've even fully processed that you're awake. The first 11 seconds show open Atlantic water, gray-blue, unremarkable, the kind of footage 100 commercial flights capture by accident every single day. Then, in the top third of the frame, something pale and irregularly folded drifts into view, hanging motionless against the horizon, and your stomach does something you don't have a polite word for. You watch it 4 more times before your coffee's even finished brewing, and each time you notice something new, something that makes the last watch feel incomplete. The object doesn't move like debris, doesn't move like a balloon caught in wind shear, doesn't move like anything you can immediately file under the usual explanations you keep in a mental folder for exactly this kind of tip. It just sits there, folded and pale against the gray water, for 21 more seconds, long enough that whoever was holding the camera had time to notice, react, keep filming, and then, at the 32-second mark, the video simply ends. Not a stutter. Not the camera app crashing, which you'd recognize instantly from the specific way those files corrupt. A clean cut, frame perfect, the kind of ending that happens when someone presses stop on purpose, and that detail bothers you more than the object itself, because objects can be 100 boring things. A deliberate stop at exactly the moment something was about to become clearer is a decision someone made. By 7 a.m. you've done what you always do first, the unglamorous part nobody sees. You check the metadata, and it's wrong in a specific, interesting way. The file claims to have been recorded on a phone model that didn't exist yet on the date embedded in its own EXIF data, an 18-month gap between the two that shouldn't be possible if the file is what it claims to be. That doesn't mean it's fake. It usually means the file's been re-encoded, re-uploaded, recompressed by 3 or 4 platforms since whoever actually filmed it first hit record, each one stripping and rewriting metadata along the way until the file barely resembles its own origin story anymore. You've seen this exact pattern before, dozens of times, and it almost always means the same thing. Somewhere further back in the chain, there's an original file, unmolested, sitting on somebody's actual device, and everything you're looking at right now is just the last generation of a copy of a copy of a copy. You spend the next 3 hours doing something that looks, from the outside, like nothing is happening at all, reverse searching still frames, cross-referencing flight paths over that stretch of Atlantic on the estimated date range, checking maritime traffic logs for any vessel that might have been close enough to film from a different angle. Around hour 2, you find something that makes you actually say something out loud to your empty apartment. A single forum post, 4 months old, from an account that's since been deleted, mentioning the exact same coordinates, the exact same pale folded shape, describing it in almost identical language to what you're seeing on screen, except that post claims the original footage was over 2 minutes long, not 32 seconds. You read that sentence 3 times. If it's true, then what you're holding right now isn't the full recording. It's a fragment, deliberately shortened, and somebody, somewhere, made the choice about which 21 seconds the world was allowed to see. You message your source back around noon, asking the only question that actually matters at this point. Where exactly did this come from? Who uploaded it first? Can you get me closer to the original account? The reply takes 4 hours to arrive, and when it does, it's shorter than you expected and colder than you wanted. The forum thread where they found it has been deleted entirely, not the post, the whole thread, moderator removed, no explanation attached, the kind of clean disappearance that either means it violated some obvious rule you're not seeing, or someone with actual authority over that platform decided it needed to stop existing. Your source adds one more line, almost as an afterthought, the kind of detail that changes the entire shape of your afternoon. They say the account that originally posted it had exactly one other post in its history, from 11 months earlier, and it was a job listing for a maritime research vessel operating in that same general region of the Atlantic. That's the moment this stops being a video verification job and starts being something you can't quite put down. You spend the rest of the afternoon chasing that vessel, cross-referencing public shipping registries, charter company websites, anything that might connect a research ship to that stretch of ocean during the estimated time frame, and you find exactly one candidate, a private oceanographic survey vessel, contracted, according to a single archived press release, to conduct seed mapping work in that region during a 2-month window that lines up almost too neatly with your best estimate of the recording date. You call the charter company listed on that old press release, using the calm, boring, procedural voice you've practiced specifically for calls like this one, and you get exactly the response you've learned to expect from people who've been told, explicitly or not, what they're allowed to confirm. The receptionist puts you on hold for 4 minutes, comes back, and tells you politely that they have no record of media inquiries related to that project, and that any further questions should go through a public relations contact who, when you check, hasn't updated their own professional profile in over a year. Your editor texts you at 6 p.m. asking if this is ready to go up tonight, and you sit there staring at the message longer than you should because you genuinely don't know how to answer it honestly. You have a 32-second clip with mismatched metadata, a deleted forum post referencing a longer version that may or may not have existed, and a research vessel connection that's either the actual explanation or an elaborate coincidence you've talked yourself into believing because you've spent 14 hours awake chasing it. You type out 3 different versions of a reply and delete all of them because each one either oversells what you actually have or undersells how strange the specific pattern of disappearances around this file genuinely is. The deleted thread, the vague PR contact, the 18-month metadata gap that shouldn't exist on a file this short. You finally settle on the only honest answer available to you. Not tonight, I need 1 more day, and you hit send before you can talk yourself out of it a 4th time. You don't sleep that night, not really, not the kind of sleep that counts. You keep replaying the object in your mind instead of on screen, the way it just hung there, pale and folded, doing nothing for 21 straight seconds while someone behind the camera apparently had all the time in the world to keep recording and then didn't. Somewhere around 2 a.m. you sit up and open your laptop again, not because you have a new lead, but because the specific asymmetry of it won't leave you alone. Something that patient, that undisturbed by being watched, filmed by someone who then chose, deliberately, to stop exactly when it mattered most. You write that observation down in your notes, underline it twice, and stare at it until the words stop meaning anything, the way words do at 3 in the morning when you've been awake too long chasing something that might not even want to be found. The published video, when it finally goes up 2 days later, is shorter than everything you actually gathered, careful in the specific way you've learned to be careful when you have real, verified pieces but no complete picture connecting them cleanly. You lay out the metadata inconsistency honestly. You mention the deleted forum thread without naming the platform, because naming it serves nobody and protects no one. You describe the research vessel connection as exactly what it is, a plausible, unconfirmed lead, not a conclusion, and you resist, with real effort, the temptation to let the video's ending feel more resolved than your actual investigation was. You'll publish it at 11 p.m., close the laptop, and for the first time in 3 days, actually sleep. 9 days later, an email arrives from an address with no name attached, 4 sentences long, careful, in exactly the way that tells you the sender knows precisely how much they're choosing not to say. It doesn't confirm the object was anything. It doesn't deny it either. It says only that someone connected to that survey vessel's crew saw your video, recognized specific details you never made public, and wanted you to know your instinct about the cut being deliberate was correct, without saying who cut it, or why, or what came after the 32 seconds nobody outside a small circle has ever seen. You read it 11 times. You still haven't replied. Some nights you're fairly sure that not knowing what happens after that cut is the actual point of the whole thing, and other nights you're less sure you believe that at all. If this pulled you in the way that video pulled her in at 4:52 that morning, subscribe, because if that second email ever explains itself, I'm making the follow-up. And tell me honestly in the comments, do you think the person behind that camera stopped recording because they lost their nerve or because someone standing next to them told them to?